Hey, shalom. Good to see you all. Glad you made it. All right. Can you hear me? Is the audio strong? Please, somebody give me a shout out if you can. So, in the meantime, shalom to Pastor Bruce, Better or Worst, Brenda, Julie, Betty, Annie, Gabrielle, Betty, Troy, Dr. De Vera, Yanasi. Great, guys. Hey, thanks for the shalom, Annie. Love to see that you're here. Great, great, great. Hey, look at that minion already. Baruch Hashem. That's wonderful. Right on time, guys. Well done. Okay, great. Thanks for the sound check. Okay, let's just start with a real quick prayer. Avinu al malkeinu ken yiratzon ki halayla hazot ki shi'ur shelanu yihye tov be'einecha. Mode'im anachnu lefanecha ki anachnu yochalim lilmod et lashon hakodesh. Bi Adonai ta'azer nai et kol talmudai ki yihye lahem zichronim tovim. תשלחנה את רוחך עליהם, אדוני. לא לנו ולך יהיה כל הכבוד. לכל הדברים האלה אנחנו נברכך בזכות ישוע המשיח. All right. Yeah, great. Well, we had a beloved pet die today, so maybe, there was no need to do additional mischief. I don't know. So, all right. But very grateful. I knew when he was going to pass last night, so I was able to take him out to his brother. They're always together their whole lives. They always follow each other around, and it was nice. I was happy to be able to let them say goodbye to each other. Although he was just kind of laying there breathing, but at least the brother could say bye to him. So, all right. So here we are. Welcome to our teaching ministry, a collaborative effort with Dr. Dwayne Miller and myself. And his channel and stuff is over there. And this is also a production of Congregation Simchat Hashem. Yeah. So, and then here's my channels up above. Boop, 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 boop. So that's where you can find all those different teachings. If you're more interested in Genesis, like Joshua, like sermons, then check out the Torah.ph, this one here, all right, on YouTube. And that'll get you mostly through Genesis. I haven't posted all the rest yet. But I'm thinking about moving them over to Hebrew literacy so it's easier for people to find. Okay, let's get started. Boom. Haha. So here's our page tonight. So tonight we're doing First Kings, right? And we're in chapter 8, verse 36, right? So that is the top of this page. Look, the artist didn't give us a lot of frames. Basically, it's one page. Oh, there he is, the Lord. People, listen. And he's saying all that stuff. Okay, so taking the picture, look at it. That's the only comic page, the only comic portion for like many, many verses. So I'm showing you that. My policy usually is when there's just a bunch of talking and not many pictures, then to show you the actual Hebrew Tanakh. So that's what we're going to do, right? So I've got my Koren Pub Tanakh here, presentation edition, very nice Hebrew Tanakh if you're looking for one. I think this is the only time I'll kiss a comic book. It's the word, right? So let's just let's see what we got here. Work. Okay, chapter 8. What did I say it was? Verse 36? I think that's what I said. Yes, 36. Okay, good. So let's pull that down a little bit. So that'll be easy for everybody to read anyway. That's one of the benefits of, let me see, should we do this? It seems pretty clear without it. Okay, great. Let me know if you have trouble seeing that. I think that's pretty good though, the way it is. Let's get started then. Hey, Shalom, Sosa, and Ted. Glad you guys made it. And Alec. Baruch Hashem. Who else came in the room? Okay, good. Lamed is 30 and Vav is 6. Okay. So it's not here. So you can see if you look at the previous verse, is that blurry? Hold on. I think it's sometimes I gotta trick the camera to focus. All right, let's trick it. Let's trick it. It doesn't seem so clear to me. What's going on? Ah, there we go. Yeah, now it's locked on. Great, great, great. All right. So when you find the verse you're looking for in the Hebrew Bible, Lamed and Vav, that's 36. So if you're not sure it's here, or if it starts after the Sof Pasuk, after the end of verse marker, then look at the previous line. Look at the previous verse. Okay, here's 35. So look, 35 started here, and it's going, 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 going. There's no end, no colon yet, no Sof Pasuk. Da, da, da. So that's how we know that this is where the verse that's in the column reference starts. Okay, 36. Ve'ata, literally, and you, right? Ata is you. Tishma. So Shema, you guys know, this was one of our words of the day. And the tav at the beginning reminds us of this word, ata. Ata. Tishma. So this means literally, and you will shema. Okay? Ti will hear. Okay? So, and you will hear. So whenever that happens, when you have two pronouns in a row, it's showing us some kind of stronger meaning. Usually I find it renders well as just yourself. So now you yourself will hear Ha Shemayim, the heavens. V'salachta. Okay. Salach means to forgive. If you're familiar with the prayer book, the Siddur, we have selichot or some prayers, right? For certain times of year. Selichot is like asking for forgiveness, right? So salach is to forgive. Ta, now it's at the end, just like the tav at the beginning of a certain kind of verb, imperfect verbs reminds us of a ta, so too a tav at the end of perfect verbs reminds us of a ta. Okay? So salachta means you forgave, and the vav changes the time. Ve salachta, and you forgave. See, there's no vav consecutive here, right? So if we wanted to, instead of saying ve'ata, if we wanted to put the vav here, we wouldn't say ve'tishma, right? We would say ve shema ta. We put the ta at the end to make it the same pattern as this one, you see? Okay. Great, great. Let me just see. Is it scrolling for me in the chat? I don't want to miss anything anyone says. Okay, we're good. You know what's happening? Yeah, that's fine. Hey, Shalom Yakar. Glad you made it. Okay. V'salachta, and you will forgive. Lechata'at. Literally, this means to the chatat, the sin of avadecha. Avid, right? Avid, this was one of our words of the day. This is slave, right? Or servant. And avadim means servants. And then we remove the M sound from the end, and that changes it to be servants of, right? Avadim of cha is what that says. So avadecha, servants of cha, the servants of you. Ve'ammecha, and am, people of cha, of you, your people, Yisrael. Oops, sorry. I'm trying to look at the camera and I thought I had it over there. Yisrael, Israel. Okay, good. Any comments or questions so far? We all right with it? All right. I was tempted to take a drink. I'll wait a bit. Okay. Next, ki, for or because, toreim et haderech hatov asher yelechuva. Okay, so ki for toreim. So this verb is very hard to recognize if you're not used to seeing it. Okay, it's what we call a doubly weak verb. That means there are two letters from the three-letter root which like to disappear or change. Okay, so the verbal root is yara, yod, resh, hey, and you already know that when a verb ends in hey, the hey goes away. Okay, Now, when you have a yod at the beginning of a verb, sometimes that yod will disappear. Other times it changes into a vav, and that's what's happened here. So we can kind of reconstruct it. Really, we're only left with resh. The resh is all that's original. Okay. Okay. So to at the beginning of a verb means you. So the verb yara is to shoot, right? Yeah, let's hold the yod. Okay, we got the yod like it's knocking our arrow there. I'll let my thumb be the knock point. Yara, to shoot, or to teach. Right? So here it is, the Hefil version to teach. To, you will, ore, you will teach. It almost sounds like Torah, right? Tore, who will you teach? Aim. M. The m suffix at the end means them. Ki toreim, for you will teach. Et haderech. Oh, this was the word of the day today, wasn't it? Haderech, way, the way, right? Derech is way. Just like Yeshua's followers were not called Christians. They called themselves the followers of the way. Because Yeshua said, he said, I am hahodos, which we have it as hodos, which is just Greek for haderech. I am the way. Yakar says, oh, I'm sorry. Wait. Yvonne, oh, shalom, Ivan. Glad you made it. Yakar says, when does Evid becomes avad? Okay, good question. So, beep, 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 back over here. Evid is a noun, but, um, yeah, okay. It's a segholate noun. Okay, so this is a good question. So let me give you the pattern here. Segolates, for those of you who want to know, are nouns that have a sound at the beginning, usually, right? Also, there's a couple that have but there's an old Canaanite reason for that. I won't get into that. Like na'ar, right? Like a lad. But anyway, so melech, for example, is king, okay? And there's a certain pattern that segolates follow. So, for example, if I want to make king, melech, into a plural, I say melachim, right? Melachim. If I want to take the word sefer, see it's also a sound, and I make it plural, it's safarim. Hear that? Okay. Safarim. So what's happening here with Evid is it was like the sefer example, safarim, right? When I put in the plural, it's avadim. This is kind of a complex question, so you don't have to understand this. Those of you who don't understand, it's fine. I'm just answering it because it was asked. So avadim, the accent is on the end, and whenever you have a kametz, the ah sound that looks like a T, before the accent mark, and the accent moves like to accommodate it. Like in this case, it became avadecha, right? So it moved. Then that changes to a schwa, but you can't have a normal schwa under a gadol. The ayin, that's why it's a chatapatach, a vocal schwa. That's why it's avadech. Okay, so I hope that answered your question. It's okay if you guys can get that. It's a very advanced question. Okay, right. I think you asked that question while I was in the middle, so hopefully that got you there. Brenda says it's okay. Let's see. Yakar says, is it because of segholate principle or Evid Avad? Yeah, segholate, the segholate principle, exactly. Sorry, I was reading your questions one at a time, and you already figured it out. Brenda says, interesting to teach and to shoot is the same word. Yeah, isn't it? Especially when you kind of bring it together. What is to sin? The kind of catch-all phrase that we have for sin. We have many words for sin, right? Depending on the kinds of sin. Is it intentional? Is it a minor sin? Is it a big rebellion? Is it a crime, like a felony? Is it a misstep? Is it a wandering, like an error? All kinds of words for different kinds of sin, right? They're not all the same, right? The Hebrew language, nobody can make that theological claim that sometimes our Christians brothers and sisters will make, that breaking any sin is like breaking them all if they spoke Hebrew. Because looking in Hebrew, why do we have all these categories that God gave us for sins, right? On different levels of severity, right? But there's one word that also functions as a catch-all. And the catch-all word is chayta. And it comes from the verb chata, which means to miss. So, following the Torah, we take a shot, right? We're shooting, we're aiming, yara. We're aiming at the target, and then we miss. Chayta, that's sin, right? You missed. Right, exactly. That's right. Pastor Bruce and Yvonne, Sister Yvonne, got it. Both of you got it at the same time. To miss the mark, exactly. Yeah. Which is actually really great because that word has two nuances, right? If it's by itself, it means any kind of sin, right? Any kind of sin that's out there. The bad one, the minor one, murdering somebody, eating shrimp, whatever kind of sin, it's all in there, right? But when you bring it down, since Hebrew, biblical Hebrew, is very highly nuanced, right? So depending on the words that are around it, it can affect the meaning. So if this word is surrounded by other words for sins, then it no longer means any kind of sin. It'd be kind of dumb to say like, serious crimes and any kind of sin, right? No, so if it's around the word like serious crimes, like pesha, a serious crime, then cheta means an accidental sin. So that's where that meaning really comes in of missing the mark, right? You were shooting, you were trying not to sin, but we missed. It was our own human frailty that failed, right? We tried, but we failed. Now, if it's the catchphrase of any kind of sin, then it doesn't really make sense that it's missing the mark because, maybe it's intentional. You weren't missing the mark. You weren't even looking at the mark. You didn't take the shot, right? Sabbath, who cares about Sabbath? Didn't even take the shot. So just be careful when you learn a gloss of a word to keep in mind that if something doesn't make sense in the text, check to see if that is a nuanced word, if it has one, two, three, four different meanings, right? And it doesn't mean it's all of those meanings at the same time. Hear me, especially those of you, I think many of you like to do Bible studies and teach others and stuff. A mistake that I've seen people do before is they'll look up a word and, oh my gosh, it's got 7 meanings. And then they teach on that word and everybody's interested to hear the meanings. That's great. And so they'll list all 7 meanings, which is fine. But then they try to apply all 7 meanings to the verse that they're exegeting. That is not how it works. Okay. There are a couple times where a word is inseparable from the 2 meanings, right? Like tzedakah or tzedek, right? It means righteousness and it means justice, right? Like living by the law appropriately, that is what righteousness is. And you don't split those, right? But many times the word has many different meanings depending on how it's used, the context. And you can't then take a word and look at its 7 meanings and say it means all of these things here. And so I've seen like people are giving sermons and how do we do this application of the word and how do plugging all the meanings into the verse. It's not how it works. English has highly nuanced words from time to time as well, right? Like get. Like, did you get the document, right? Okay, so that's like physically taking something, right? Or I say, I've been teaching you Hebrew for 10 years. Do you get it? Do you understand? Right? Different meaning, right? Or you might be saying get as in the Yiddish word we use in English, right? In Yiddish English, I gave her a get, which means I paid her alimony when I divorced her, right? Okay, so that's another meaning for get. Oh, that's granted, that's from a different language, but still, people will be speaking in English. Jews in America will be speaking in English and talking about a get. Did you have to pay a get? Did you have to give the get? Uh, other meanings for get, like I'm sure there's. Oh, did you get a cold? Right? And you can keep going. There's many, many. So wouldn't it be foolish, like if I gave some command to somebody, do this and this and that, say I have like a servant or something, and then the servant says, well, the word get means all these things, so I have to do every single one. So just be careful, all right? Even though I want you to know the nuances, I don't want you to think that every single time you see the word that it's all of them. It's not generally how it works. Okay? Yes, exactly. Tet says context is king. Yes. Right. Betty says also can mean way or road. Yeah. In fact, the sign that I shared, the sign, usually that's used for street, but it can also mean way, right? So, yeah, way, road. Yeah. And in fact, we'll go very deep when we get into some of the Psalms. It can actually mean related to the Ugaritic Da'aket, which is like dominion. Right? So a very different meaning from the same word, right? But we're not going to worry about that now. That's pretty rare, and that's in poetry because poetry tends to be very old Hebrew, like pre-Torah sounding Hebrew. Hey, shalom, my Hebrew mentor. He says, like the amplified version. Right, exactly, right. You can't just give all the meanings at once. That's not how languages work in general, not just Hebrew. Very good. Okay, so let's continue. I don't see any other comments or questions. Very nice. Thanks for participating, guys. All right. Okay, now we've had 37 views and 14 likes. Please don't forget to like, all right, if you like what we're doing. All right. So let's see. Yakar asked about Avadecha. That's why we went back. Ve'amecha Yisrael and your servant, pardon me, your people Israel. Ki torem. So this is what we said. For you will teach them et Ha derech, today's word of the day. Whoops, my camera's cut off. Derech, the way. Which way? Ha tova, the good one. Ha, the tova, good one. Asher, which. And just here's a little advanced concept. You don't have to hear it if you don't want to. That's fine, since we're doing immersion. But if you care, oftentimes when you have asher or you have some kind of preposition, pardon me, some kind of noun before the verb, often that is expressing what we call instrumental usage, like by means of that thing, right? Or those of you who've studied Greek, they'd call it the accusative of means, right? So, anyway, sorry, I don't mean to throw all the grammar out there. Don't just cover your ears, la la la. But that's what it is. So with which, like the derech hatova, the good way which he is teaching us, is the means by which yelechu va. Okay, so this verb yelechu, it's from halach, which unfortunately starts with a hey that disappears. Now, not all verbs that start with hey have the hey disappearing. In fact, Ibn Ezra in the Mikra Gedolot, he comments on this verb that it's a different verb than halach. He was certain there's another verb, yalach, that means the same thing as halach, right? And he goes on to say, because you don't lose the hey from the beginning of a verb, right? So now Ibn Ezra turned out to be wrong, all right? So, but to be fair, he didn't have access to all the language stuff we have today, Ugaritic and all this other stuff. So this is the verb halach, okay? So, yelechu, the yod is telling us he, right? And the u makes it a plural. So yelechu means they will walk, va, in her, right? Okay. Agreeing with hatova, right? The good one. Hey, Shalom, the Bible report. All right, some people I'm not used to hearing from. Thank you guys for commenting. The Bible report says, thank you for videos. I did not know you do live videos on live shows. Oh, okay, yeah. Welcome for being here. We are live on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. All right, we have the live immersion. And so we're Monday and Tuesday we're doing Exodus with the graphic novel. And on Wednesday, it's First Kings graphic novel, although whenever there's just one picture for the whole page, I switch over to a normal Tanakh because it's easier to read and see and everything. And then on Thursdays, we're doing a psalm. Right now, Psalm 119, we're working through. And then depending on if you're awake at night, we have our congregational drash live on Shabbat at, that's 5 p.m. over here in Asia, 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the States. That's kind of hard. Yeah. And then also my friend and teaching partner, Dr. Dwayne, on Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, he's doing a walk through Isaiah, the Hebrew Isaiah. So Brenda says it's truly a blessing. Ted says excellent way to redeem the time. Baruch Hashem. Praise God. Praise God. Julie says, what was the result of the grammar class? Yeah. Okay, here's the result. A lot of people want it, right? I'm not sure when I'm going to phase it in, though. I'm thinking maybe not to make it weekly, but just to kind of plug it in every other week or something. Maybe we'll see. Yeah. So still, the vote's still open. You can still cast your vote. So, Brenda says sometimes I make the Shabbat. Yeah, I've seen you there before, Achoti. Great, thank you. Pastor Bruce posted a link to our Hebrew Literacy Telegram channel. And at the end, I'll give the Messianic chat channel as well. All right. Venatata. So this is a little hard to recognize. It's the verb natan. Natan. By the way, please make sure to click like, guys, okay? Make sure to click like. We're coming out of a 1.5 year shadow ban, so it's kind of nice that we're starting to get some traffic. So please make sure to like. I'm not sure if that'll fully lift the ban or not. So the verb is natan. Natan, okay? And look what happened. That final noon assimilated into the tav, right? Just like we see oftentimes the initial noon will disappear from verbs which start with a noon, or it will often assimilate in and leave the little dagesh, the dot saying, hey, there's a noon in here. Same thing happened here. A theoretical ancient Hebrew form before the Bible would have been natanta, although we haven't found evidence of that, right? But that's a theoretical form. But you can see it's left the footprint here. So, we can still see that there is a noon in there, right? There's something went in there. So it became natata. And now we just say natata. Right? So natata means you gave in the perfect, usually a past, and the vav is our flux capacitor, changing the time. The natata, and you will give matar, rain. Sorry, the Bible Report, our website has been hacked, but for now you can connect with us on Telegram. Yeah, Pastor Bruce, click the link to one of our Telegram channels up there. You can connect to me, and yeah, we'll let you know any information. Right now, this is the class. It's immersive learning. But on my channel, I have everything you need to learn to read the alphabet. And there's practice videos on practicing to read it. And there's some grammar nuggets to get you through kind of a basic Hebrew thing. But the idea is we're immersing in the text here. People here who are here, they're on all different levels. Some are advanced. Some are, sometimes my student Tom even shows up, I think, just to check out what's going on. My first student from like 27, 28 years ago, he teaches Hebrew also where he's at churches and stuff from time to time. So he's just kind of checking in, I think, to say hi. He knows I'm happy to see when he's here. And then some are very beginning, just learning the alphabet. So whatever your level is, the idea is this is immersion. As I'm reading, you can stop and ask a question, and I'll answer it. And then often I'm just explaining the grammar as we go. But the point is we're in the text faster, right? Instead of going through grammar for 4 semesters, and then you start to really read the Bible. Instead, we're swimming in the text. That's the idea. That's why we do Torah, and we do from the prophets, and we also do from the Psalms. So we're doing kind of 3 different samplings of biblical Hebrew. Okay? I know people are wanting an actual class. We've been talking about maybe replacing one of our 4 immersion lessons with an actual live Hebrew class, like grammar class rather. And I haven't fully decided to do that. I wanted to see the interest in. Okay, yeah. So, Baruch Hashem. Thanks, Julie. Julie says it's amazing here. Uh, Tet says they provide a way to communicate live, etc. I think Rob will finalize details of suggested Bible class. Right, yeah, that's right, that's right. Yeah, Pastor Bruce says they provide it's a way to communicate. Yeah, exactly. Nice. Okay, so matar is rain. By the way, make sure you're doing our vocabulary word of the day. All right. So with the method that I'm using to kind of rapidly get you guys up to speed, every day I give you a new vocabulary word from high frequency words. All right. So if you do this for about 13 months, then you'll have your driver's license to buy a Hebrew Reader's Bible, like Zondervan's is probably the one that people will choose. And you're going to find that if you just randomly point at any word in the Bible, you will have a 79.6%, let's say 80% chance of knowing that word. And the words you don't know will be defined on the bottom of the page, right? So just a great resource. There's a couple other readers editions, but I won't go into that now. I've done it before. So, all right. Al, where's the rain going to be? Al, upon. Artsecha, the Eretz, which is land of Cha, of you, your land. We'll do like this. Asher, which natata, you gave le'amecha, to your to your people. Pastor Bruce says it works. I am only a couple weeks in and I can read Hebrew. Don't know what it means yet. Thank you for that testimony, Baruch Hashem. Dr. DeVere says, what is the hay in Natawagan? I think you have a typo there, Achi. Probably not Tata, it probably means. Okay, let me look. Let me see if I can find. Oh, you must mean this one. Hold on. The Natata, this one? So Natata is you gave, right? It's a perfect. And the Vav, oh, he's asking about a hey. Oh, the hey. Okay, this is just a spelling difference. So if you remember, Doc, we used to have, before the Nikudot, before the little dots that the Masoretes invented, we had 3 letters that functioned as vowel letters. The hey sometimes was an H sound, and sometimes it was there for an ah sound. That's what this is. This is just an older spelling. Yeah. Yeah, I got it. I got it. Yeah, thanks. Hey, shalom, servant of Hashem. Glad to see you. Okay, so it's just the same, Achi. Just the same. Natata. You could drop the hey and it would have the same meaning. Okay. Matar al artzacha, unto your land. Asher, which natata you gave le'amecha, to your people. So look here, guys. Natata here means you gave. But over here, Eric almost can make it. Over here, it means and you will give. because that valve, our flux capacitor, the DeLorean, it's changing the time. All right. Even though that's not technically what's happening, I if somebody here is pretty advanced in the grammar, I don't want to. Please don't shout at me. No, it's really Northwest Old Semitic ending. Yeah, okay. But the point is to get people. It doesn't have to be precisely correct as long as they understand the meaning. Yeah, so I'm giving little easier to remember devices. I think that's the plan of this class. All right, great. Continuing on. Natata le'amecha, you gave le to people of cha, of you, le for nachala. Nachala is a nice word. Nachala means an inheritance. When when I was wanting to I really wanted something in my life many years ago. I wanted to yeah, and I was asking Hashem, oh, ten li et nachalati Adonai, please give me my inheritance, right? So yeah, so anyway, so the nachala. All right. Verse 37, and I am going to need to get a drink of water. So let me do this. I will disappear, and I'll put the pointer here if you want to get started trying to figure out verse 37. Right. So let's move over here. I'll be out of the way. Ra'av. Ra'av. So ra'av, the root means hunger. Hunger, right? So you could say, you could use it as a verb to just mean I was hungry, right? He was hungry, etc. But here it means famine. Okay? So ra'av, a famine, ki yihye, ki can mean a lot of things. If, that, because, when, then. So kind of scanning ahead, it looks to me like when or if, when, let's go with when. Ra'av ki yihye, a famine, when, yihye. Yihye is from the verb haya. Okay, I just saw a question from Yakar asks, how is Nachala different from Marasha? Marasha is more like heritage. Heritage, right? So it's still something you inherit, right? It can also be actually nuanced to mean inheritance. Nachala is usually about land, right? Like, or the big things that you inherit, right? Whereas Marasha could just be even a habit. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay, good. So yihye, it's from the verb haya, haya, to become or to be, right? The yod in the front tells you it's he. Okay, so this is imperfect, it's future. He yihye, when he will be, who's the he? Ra'av, the famine, right? So when it will be, we'll say in English, va'aretz. The bait means in, the ah is the, and this would have been eretz, but this word, a little bit strange, changes to aretz when you put ha on it. Haaretz, the land. So haaretz was the land, and then Bait moved in and he kicked out the hay, right? Like kicking out the Canaanites, and then he lived in his house with the ah is still there, okay, in the land. Dever ki yiche. Dever is pestilence, like pestilence when yiche will be. Shidafon. So, okay, shidafon is like a scorching, right? Scorching. So it means like the crops got cooked. Is what it means. Too much sun. Shidafon, like a scorching. I'm not sure if that's the right English word. You guys let me know if you have a better translation for that. But that's what it means, right? It's related to a word for the hot eastern wind also. So shidafon, a scorching. Yerakon, a like mildew, right? From the root here, yerek is similar to the word for vegetable. Okay, but yerakon makes it a different word. This is like a diminutive, like a smaller kind of green. So like that's why it's like mildew, something, or like some kind of fungal growth on the crops, right? Like blight. Maybe blight would be a better way to translate that. Arbe, locust, chasil, cockroach, But it can also mean, according to Halat, it can also be part of the life cycle of the locust, right? So maybe saying like old locust and young, right? But it can also mean cockroach. There's a question mark on that if it's cockroach. Ki yihyeh, when it will be. Ki yatsar lo oivo, when. Okay, this word is kind of hard to recognize. It's what we call a geminate. It's tsarar. Tsadi, resh, resh. And look, the other resh is gone. So before you ask me, wait a second. When the word ends in resh, does the resh go away like the hey? No. Verbs where you have two of the three root letters are the same letter and they're next to each other. These are called geminates. Just think of like Gemini, right? The twins or whatever in the goofy astrology. So when that happens, oftentimes one will disappear, right? And when they are letters that can take a dagesh, sometimes you'll see a dagesh there, showing that the other guy's gone. But resh can't take a dagesh. You can't have two reshes. Like, how would you even say that? Right? So yatsar. So the verb tsarar is like to oppress or to have a difficulty, right? Um, we have a related word, like sarot. The Psalms talk about like problems. The idea is like there's like a cliff on both sides of you, and you're walking along the bottom. It's a narrow space. It's dangerous. If you have enemies up above, that's it. You lose, right? Even if you outnumber them 20-1, you lose. They're up above it, so it's the biblical language tends to treat things like merchav, like broad domains, big open spaces, as a plus. That's freedom, right, to move around. But tzara, it's a closed space, so it's related to tzara. Now, this one, it's really hard to recognize, but this is a hefil. And when you have tzara in the hefil plus lamed, it's got the special meaning of to harass, right? So when yatzarlo, when will harass, the yod is he will harass lo to him, the him is us, meaning the people. Oivo. Oyev means an enemy of him. So when look how I'm pointing, okay? If you're driving and you're just listening, that's fine because I made this into a podcast. That's fine. So obviously you don't have to look. But ki when yatsar will harass. Now to the subject. The O is his oyev, his enemy. So when his enemy, the yod tells me will harass him. Yeah, Ted says like dire straits. Yeah, that's true. I guess we have that in English too. Very nice point, Ted. Yanasi says yes, it's scorching. Ted says calamities there. Yep. Yvonne says to lay siege. Yeah, that works. Yeah, it can be. Yeah, it can be used that way. Yeah, yeah. Good. Yeah, you can't get out, right? Be'eretz. Be is in, and we've had this word. Eretz is land. She'arav. A little bit strange the way it's expressing it. So sha'ar is a gate, and the yod makes it plural. It was she'arim, right? And then when we have the the mem ending, and we drop it, it means of. So she'arim of vav, of him, became she'araiv, his gates, kol nega, every, like, so nega can mean a few different things, like a blow, an affliction, right? Like, like a disease, a plague, these kinds of things, right? An infestation, it can even be, right? So any kind of that, nega, so maybe we'll say plague, just so it's different from what's coming. Kol, any kind of, or any machala, illness. Okay. How are we on time? All right, we got a few minutes left. I got to take a drink. Let me just point this here. You guys can look at where we are next. Oh, the yacht is moving. All right, whatever. All right. Oops, I'm blocking, aren't I? Okay. All right. Verse Lamed Chait 38. And let me see how we on time. Oh, we're good. We might do this verse. Oh, okay, this is a long one. So this will probably be our last verse. Look, it's very long. Okay. Kol, every, or all, or each, tefillah. Tefillah is a prayer, right? Like kind of catch-all phrase for prayer. Chol techina, every request. Asher, which, ye. So this is the verb haya, and since we put this beginning that we prepended it with the tav, that reminds you of ata, you. So we know it's going to be imperfect, which is usually future. It can be present continuous or future. Tihye. So okay. So this can either be okay, yeah, okay, yeah, okay. It can be you will be or it can be she will be. Unfortunately, those are the same forms. I glanced ahead and that's how I saw it's really she. This is referring back to this word, techina or tefillah. So any prayer, any supplication, any request, asher which will be, right? She will be literally because those are she's, techina and tefillah. Lechol ha'adam, to any person. Now, literally it says any the man. But usually the Tanakh, if we want to say literally like the sex of a male, usually we'll say ish, the word ish, right? Adam is more kind of like a human, right? Something like that. Okay. Hey, shalom, Dr. Dwayne. Glad you made it, Achi. Okay. Lechol, to any or to all of Amcha, people of Cha, or Am of you, your people, Yisrael. Asher Yedaun ish negach levavo. Okay. Who Yedaun. Okay. Okay. So usually this word is who or which. I think here it means when. As I look ahead, I think when Yedaun. That is one of the meanings, by the way. You can check in the lexicon. Yedaun. So yada is the verb, and that's to know, right? But we have the u here. That means they will know, right? We actually have what happened was the yod disappeared and we put another yod here, right? Verbs that start with the yod, oftentimes it disappears. So we have the other yod added, and that means he, and then the u means they, okay? So yeh the u, they will know, and then the noon at the end is extra. That's what we call the paragogic noon, right? Usually this has an emphasizing force, right? So when they will know, ish, a man, nega levavo, the plague of the heart of his heart. Interesting language here. Ufaras. Faras means spread out. Like you can spread out a tablecloth, or you could, you could spread out a talit, right? Like spread it out, or you can also spread out the wings. A bird can spread out her wings. So faras means he spread out. Why isn't okay? There it is. Ah, it's so big. That's why. He spread out. The u changes the time, and or then he will spread out. Now, why is it u instead of va or v? What's the rule? Well, I'm waiting. I see there's a question from Yanasi. Is the noon Sofit considered an exclamation mark in this case? So it doesn't always mean that, but usually it does. Usually that works. Sometimes it just shows up to make the connection smoother between the words, right? So that might be what's happening here. Yeah, that's a good question, Yanasi. Yeah, Julie got it. That's right. The bump schwa rule. Exactly. So when the first letter of the word fits the bump schwa rule. So the u in bump schwa, that's u here. We're saying it's going to be a u when you have a b, m, or a p letter. And that's what the fe is, right? That was a pei, so it was the p from bump schwa. Or if you have a schwa under here, that's this little sign. Either one will make this vav become an u, the u in bump schwa. Then he will spread out, or then let him spread out, kapaiv. So what is a kaf? This is kaf. The palm and also the under parts of the fingers. That's kaf. Also, that part of the foot is also called kaf. Okay, and it's kind of spiritually significant because that's also where the guilt gets stored, right? So kapayim means palms and that under part. There's really not a word in English for it. Palms is about as close as we can get. I notice some Bible translations, when they translate this word, they'll say hands, like he lifted up his hands, but really it's saying this part, right? Because we lose the nuance in English, we don't really treat this as somehow significant. I guess you could say someone's got blood on their hands, right? So we do it a little bit. I didn't think about that till just now. We do it a little bit, associate guilt or innocence with it, right? So there, kapav. The vav means his. So kapayim, we drop the m sound to mean of. So palms of of him, his palms. So ufaras kapayv, then he will spread out his kapayim, his palms, el, unto habayit hazeh. Bayit means house, right? Ha is the, ha bayit, the house, ha the zeh, the this one. So unto this house. All right, pretty good timing. We're finished now at 46 minutes. Good. Any comments or questions? We're done with tonight's lesson, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Now, tomorrow night is Psalm 119. We missed it last week because we had Shavuot at that time, and I wasn't going to be home in time to teach it. Yeah, so there's a delay, so I'm waiting to see if there's comments or questions. If I don't see a question right away, we'll consider ourselves done for tonight. I'm trying really hard to keep it at 45 minutes so people feel like they can plan to come, all right? Please remember to click like. We had 57 views and 22 likes, although a lot of those are probably bounces. I really appreciate it. Okay, there is Dr. DeVere comments. Kaf 5 matches to John 10 when Yeshua uh, said no one to take out of his hand. Ooh, very interesting. Thank you for that, Dr. DeVere. That's a very interesting point. Brenda says, good teaching. Thank you, Achoti. Betty says, Todah Shalom. Very welcome. All right, Shalom, Shalom, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. And I'll see you tomorrow for our Psalms or Tehillim immersion teaching. I'm a little tired.